My experience was that I found operational partners that also are my financial backers. I'm majority owner of the company and I have full creative control. I'm CEO and founder. I attempted when I first started the idea to do it on my own and hire somebody and self-fund. And I, through doing a lot of research, discovered that it honestly wasn't the smartest way to go. And also that I really needed support with operational experts because it's not just the funding that makes a successful company, but how you strategically play your operations game. And so that's been incredibly helpful for me.
So it sounds like that's worked out. I'm also wondering why Ulta, how they managed to woo the Kardashians and you with beauty lines.
Thank you for asking about the glorious Ulta. Ulta's been an extraordinary retail partner, and they were a great place for me to start. I think so often, particularly with Black hair care and a company that is centered around Black beauty, we are specifically meet the needs of the curly, coily, and tight textured community. But Ulta has doors everywhere, and their hair care department is active and live. And I also think that they were not interested in putting us into a corner, but instead allowing us access to their customer across the board. And I really felt like the natural hair movement that was happening, that everybody and as many people needed to have access to the products. And as the company grows, as Pattern grows, we will continue to expand where we're at and our distribution. But Ulta was and has been a brilliant retail partner for us.
Tracee, we were just talking about how next week Netflix will be reporting earnings, and I wondered what your take more broadly on the industry has been in terms of producing more content, and if we're going to suddenly hit a wall if the pandemic doesn't subside sometime soon, and how you've adjusted with your production company and with your shows that you're in front of the camera for.
Well, I giggled because I was listening to you guys before talking about West Wing, The Office, and Bridgerton. So I am also a Bridgerton fan, and that just tickled me. My production company, we are doing stories that are about reframing assumptions about how we see ourselves, content that I think is actually really needed. I think that obviously COVID and the pandemic has put a real damper on how we produce and how we do our shows, but Blackish has been back. We've done 15 episodes successfully and safely with no COVID, no spread of COVID within the work environment. It takes a lot to do it properly, but it is possible. And so I think we will continue to see all of us adjusting to the world that we're living in now and figuring out how to do that safely. It'll be interesting to see how the vaccine kind of plays into that. But I think all of us in all industries are trying to find our way in this. And hopefully, for Pattern, for example, we really prepared for the pandemic and thought it was just going to, knock us out for a bit, but it really didn't. And we realized that hair care is self-care and that the way we honor ourselves is something that we need to incorporate into our narrative in terms of a company and how we market and how we properly communicate with our consumer.
Why do you think CPG companies have missed this trend? I mean, famously, especially with what I'm talking about is the African American hair care, beauty care centered products. P&G famously made an acquisition to get into it with Walker and Company. Why has it been such a blind spot?
Well, I think often we hear, I'm thinking of the right way to articulate this, but I think often spending power is used as a barometer for our worth. And because of the reality of the world that we live in, there are not always metrics that actually take into account our spending power. And somehow there's always surprise and a lot of forgetting. But the truth is that the richness of our culture is unmatched, and the power of who we are and the beauty of who we are and the importance of what we need and what all of us need is something that I think people are realizing more and more. And you see that in how that trend is changing. So I think people are behind the 8 ball. I've been ahead of it. It took me 10 years to get Pattern to happen. And I think some of that was the industry sort of having a blind spot and not understanding the importance and the power of this vast community of people. And in my opinion, and I think my opinion has some worth at this point because I've got a company that's working, Black hair care is not an offshoot or a subculture. It's actually mainstream. And I think we need to acknowledge that. If you look at how Black women, for example, have been so influential and at the center of so many political revolutions and cultural changes and what just happened in this election, it's the same thing in terms of buying power.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.